Alright, ladies and gents, this is going to be a quick little video that I wanted to make to show living with a high mileage M3 and to talk through everything that I've had to do to the car since buying it, and just an overall review of this vehicle. So this is a 2011 E90 M3 Competition. It is a real competition, which is kind of neat. It kind of drew me towards this car in particular. It is also almost a stripper spec, not completely, because somebody optioned it with a sunroof. But speed cloth, no iDrive, nothing other options when you pull the window saver besides comp and sunroof, which is kind of interesting. The one thing I will mention, that if you are looking in the market and you do plan on driving one of these on more a daily basis, get the iDrive, do Mr. 12 volt, get your Android on and Apple CarPlay. It's worth it for that aspect. Just gives you a little bit more newness to the car, but I do like the stripper spec. So speed cloth, full mechanical, front and rear. The front seats are a little worn, rear seats are brand new, but they're covered up for obvious reasons, because I have a 3-year-old. So this car has 158,000 miles. I bought it with about 152.6. I've owned it for about 8 months, so putting some miles on it, really enjoying it. Honestly, I would have more miles if I wouldn't have to do a lot of maintenance that I had to do, but that's what you're going to get with these cars, and that's what we're going to talk about. So obviously, just jumping in the interior is the easiest way. It is probably a C-level interior. I would say it's somebody liked this car, they didn't love it. They just wanted to keep it clean, but they didn't want to keep it perfect. So you have the bolster wear, which is pretty normal. You can buy these. I'm going to do a Recaro in the driver's seat, so I'm not too particularly worried about it. Passenger seat's actually in really, really good shape for the mileage. I do have some cleaner that I do need to do to get rid of all the shininess and to bring the leather back and clear it. When it comes to the center, you're gonna have scratches, you're gonna have stuff. Majority of his life, this car had never been smoked in. Somebody smoked it at once, it looks like. I think it was the dealer that I bought it from, because I got it wholesale. I think the guy did, because everything was fresh and you couldn't smell any smoke in it, and that's where you get one burn on this seat, and there's one burn by the shift boot, so it's just unfortunate. Gear shift knob, you're gonna have wear. Anybody that has rings or anything destroys these. If you're looking at sourcing one of these, hopefully a decent one used. The steering wheel is absolutely trashed in the car. So this is a low mileage new steering wheel that I put in it. Eventually I would like to do something a little bit different, but for right now I love it. It's so nice that it's nice and new. Nobody ruined it. The only other major wear you really are going to get is this right here, from people getting in and out of it, and grabbing right here, because it's how you grab, and it's just going to happen. You're going to get some sill wear. These sills are actually in really decent shape. Not a lot of feet went across them, to be honest. These always peel off. I'm going to be buying new ones, just haven't gotten around to it. The only other thing I have done interior wise, I put all-weather set of floor mats. The carpet's in really good shape, thankfully. And that's really it. Didn't need anything. The main thing it needs is a headliner, like all of them do. So that is next pretty much on the project. Now, coming around to the exterior of the car, this car has had a couple of minors. These cars are getting up there in age, and they're getting there in mileage. You're gonna have something in the Carfax most likely, or you're gonna be paying big money for them. So what I do specifically for work is I was a very high-level technician for a long time, but now went to the inspection side of vehicles for a while, and I still continue, but I also know what I'm looking for. So I don't mind minors, especially when I know it's got factory quarter panels. Now, this quarter panel has been repainted at some point. This one is not. The rear bumper has been repaired at some point. It's going to get replaced at some point. The trunk, ironically, has never been off the car, which is kind of cool. But that's the stuff you got to look for in pictures. If you see an accident or two, as long as it's a minor, honestly, Carfax is really unreliable, so it could have something worse on it. You just don't know. Coming around to the rest of the vehicle, the front bumper was pre-existingly damaged. This is my second lip. My first one got destroyed by a beaver up in the mountains, which happens. No big deal, it didn't hurt anything. The other thing it generically does is it does have the cracked fender on this side that is held up by a little bit of a makeshift bracket to make sure that that doesn't sink, because these things will literally just sink in and just kind of flop around. So you got to kind of secure it unless you're going to replace it. Both fenders are going to get replaced in this car because this one is starting to do the same thing and has been previously repaired. So it's just something you got to know about these cars. Other thing about these cars is most of them actually don't have the factory headlights still in them, mainly because they get error codes if they have the adaptive, and then also they weather really bad. This one has a set of decent aftermarket headlights in them. Not my favorite, but I'm okay with it for right now. I did have to code out all of the errors for that, which isn't a big deal. I mean, I'm never gonna put actives back in it, so I'm not that particularly worried about it. I did do gloss black kidney grills because I think it looks way better than the chrome. I can't stand the chrome. The most major chip it has is this right here at this corner edge. You're just gonna get this with this mileage. Like, you gotta understand, even on a low mileage car, you can get a chip like that. The rest of the exterior is actually in really good shape. That front fender was repaired / repainted at some point, and along with the bumper, I believe. The hood is original and this fender is original. So ironically, it was a front and a rear, just like Carfax said, which is kind of cool. This one was actually right. So it was the bumper, that quarter panel was blended, probably just got scratched. It was very early in its life on the rear, so it's probably, that's why it looks really well. And then the front was just somebody needed to do it. So that's just how they did it. They didn't blend it into the door, which is why you kind of notice it, but it's not a big deal. That's gonna get replaced, like I said. I have wrapped all of the appliques with gloss black PPF just because it needed to it was kind of weathered and they're just really expensive. So mechanically, what have I done? So I'm a little bit of a different believer in these. So I don't think, especially with these higher mileage cars, you should go out and do rod bearings right off the bat. I've built plenty of engines in my life. How I like to do it is I like to take everything apart. I want the crank to be micro polished. I want everything to be checked for tolerance. I don't want to just throw bearings in something. That being said, this oil pan has 100% been off, so I think they've been done at some point in its life. I don't know, like I said. But if you have a 120,000 mile M3 that you buy, or a 100,000 mile M3, or hell, even a 90,000 mile M3, I would not run to do your rod bearings. I would probably do an oil analysis, maybe do them. Honestly though, I think when you buy one of these cars, I think your biggest thing you should be thinking about in your mind is that if you have to replace an engine, it is what it is. Especially at that point, if you buy one of these, it's one of those things, so you should know about it. So what have I done? So throttle actuators were done. When I pulled the plenum off, I figured out they had been done. It was leaking profusely from the valve covers like they always do. So I bought a second set of OEM covers instead of going to the aluminum route, sent them off to a good friend of mine that does a lot of magnesium wheels. And so he has the correct powder coating for these. So they've been coated wrinkle black. I think it's just simple. They stay clean. They look good. So I installed those into the front. My plastic, the Delrin style plastic covers for the springs on the front of the cam gears were all in really good shape, so I didn't disturb them in any way. I just left them to be completely transparent. I have done a power steering reservoir because it was leaking. I had to do an oil filter housing because it was leaking. That gasket was so old and brittle, and this is a 2011, that if you have one of these cars, you have to do it. I think it's just one of those things, whether it's leaking or not, you should do it. I have done an idle actuator, throttle body, whatever you want to call it, and the actual tube for it is all brand new. It's just, it needed it. It didn't idle as good as I wanted it to. It was completely drivable. I could tell there was a difference there. So that has been done on it. It needed an oil filter cap, which is probably the most common thing on these. I did do all spark plugs while I was in there. That is a cheap insurance policy. Please do spark plugs. Make sure these things run good. They're a very high-strung engine, high-strung quote-unquote, but they're a performance engine. You should probably do it. Air filter, obviously, just easy, cheap maintenance. the two things I think that are left, I think I want to do all the coil packs and I want to do all the fuel injectors. Main reason why I say this is because it's just common failure points, and I think they're pretty documented pretty well. I think that's the next step on the car. I did do an aftermarket ECS oil filter cap. I just think it looks nice, and I won't have to worry about the plastic foam cracking or anything. Future plans, engine bay wise, I would like to do the full Turner carbon intake that gives you more open air filter, but it still brings it from the bumper and brings it from the hood. So that's kind of what I'm at on that. I just think it looks good. I think the price point fits well. Other than that, I mean, it'd be cool to have a carbon plenum one day, but it really isn't 100% needed. Now, what other modifications have I done? So this does have the factory EDC suspension because it is a comp. It works fine. I have no error codes. Everything does as it's supposed to do. So me saying this, I can hear top hat noise in the front. I just haven't addressed it because honestly, I would really like to do like a set of Olins on this car or something of that nature, so I just haven't messed with it. So modifications I've done is this is a full set of 19x10 CZP wheels. It is wrapped in 285/30/19 Bridgestones. It drives really, really well. I love the way it drove. I brought it up to the Tail of the Dragon, the Smoky Mountain area, which I've been going up there for around a little over 10 years. And honestly, it was one of the best out-of-the-box cars I've driven in a long time as far as just, honestly, wheels and tires. I have done full brakes on the car. I just did Hawk HPS street pads just because I do drive it on the street mostly. Sure, we'll go to the racetrack when I do some instructing every now and then, sure. But I wanted something that I could probably do a couple laps with and they're not going to burn out, but I'm not going to hear them every day on the street. So that is what I've done. I have done a dine-in front sway bar that I got from Buddy just because he happened to have it. So it's got solid end links on front with the spherical joints, and it does have a dine-in front sway bar. I think it did improve front end grip, especially with these wider tires. It does have the factory style alignment on it. I've got as much camber as I can get out of the front. The rear is pretty much stock because it already comes with a pretty aggressive amount. Getting more camber to the front is probably the next way to go. So overall, am I happy with my experience in buying a high mileage car? Yes. I am well under $20,000 in this car. Well under, and I'm very happy with it. I don't think you need to go full out on these. If you're going to buy one to drive it, I wouldn't be afraid of a high mileage one. I mean, at the end of the day, the most expensive thing is going to be that. And I have kind of arguments with my friends a lot because they talk about how expensive these motors are, and I'm like, well, have you looked at the price of anything else recently? Anything from LS7s to LS3. So because I used to be in a Corvette, it's like you're just kind of in that same ballpark. You can spend as much money as you want to spend. So no, I 100% don't regret it. I actually really like this car. I like it a whole lot more than I expected. Long-term goals with it, because I really believe this is going to be a long-term car for me. It's going to be in a collection to be the driver that you just go and enjoy, and I can bring my kids with me. I think it is going to be, I'm going to acquire another motor. I would like to just find a bare long block to build to have laying around, because at some point it's probably going to need it because I'm going to have too many miles in the car. I would like to do a full carbon roof replacement on this to get rid of the sunroof, because I don't use sunroofs ever. And it's just, I wouldn't mind doing it. And then honestly, like I said, a set of Olins on the car, SBL arms would be nice, and that's really about it. Besides maybe some American Racing header full exhaust would be really cool because they sound really good, and I just like the quality of it. The car does have a Megan Racing axle back that somebody did at some point. Not my favorite, but it's good enough for now. At the end of the day, what I tell people with these, everybody I've talked to, is like when you buy them, don't rush into doing a lot of the crazy modifications with it. Just get it sorted first, maintenance-wise. It needs a lot of random stuff. The only other thing I just remembered, I did do an updated low-pressure fuel sensor. And everything I've done myself. So, like, a lot of people forget, it does get expensive with these cars when you're paying somebody to do it. I saved thousands and thousands of dollars doing it myself because I was a very high level mechanic for a long time. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, will you enjoy it? I think so. This car is a DCT. I got that so my wife could drive it. Honestly, when I took it to the mountains, I didn't miss having a manual. Do I want a manual car in the garage next to it? I think 100%. Not a manual E90 or an E92, I don't think. I think I'll just stick to one of these cars. But maybe, because I have driven a few manuals and they are very fun. But that's really it. This is just an overview. If you're gonna buy one of these high mileage, you just kind of gotta know what you gotta do. The next major services I probably need to do on the car are honestly gonna be full DCT service. I think that's a big thing, both the lower pan cover and the side cover and all the fluid. I think that's kind of important you need to do. I think it's been done at least once on this car. It drives really good. But I'm gonna do that along with, I think, a GTS tran tune. Just because I think I've heard it fixes a lot of the random nuances that you notice when you drive these. These things drive really good stock, just so you know, DCT wise. You just notice some nuances with the trans tuning that if you had access to it, you could probably fix, as far as the way the clutches engage and how much line pressure the trans is running for that solenoid. So that's going to be probably the next thing. But that's really about it maintenance wise. I really don't see anything else it needs besides fuel injectors and coil packs at some point, just because they are a common problem. I actually already had one coil pack go out, so I went ahead and just bought one to confirm that was the issue before I bought the rest of them, and I just need to buy the rest of them. That's the next step. But thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna make more update videos, probably some more driving videos of this car, just for people to get understanding of these. Now, I don't have drive shaft cowbell noise. I don't have rear diff whine out of the car. I just don't. Can I tell you if it's been replaced before, the drive shaft? Maybe, or maybe not, because I think this car was a highway car. I think it drove a lot on the highway. But that's really it. Just don't overthink it when you get one of these. I don't recommend, personally, I probably wouldn't daily one, just because a lot of the parts are nuanced. So if you ever have a problem, you're going to be waiting on it. I have a older GM product that I daily drive, because I can go buy any part of the parts store, and it has really cold AC for my kids. So that's really about it. But thank you for watching this video. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments.